Welcome back, crew. While Savage Worlds may be our November game of the month, we're going to mix it up a little bit and dive into the superheroic world of the Mask RPG by Magpie Games. If you know me, if you watch the channel, I love superhero games. I'm usually running Mutants and Masterminds 3E, but one of my goals for 2023 is to run all of the major superhero TTRPGs. And I wanted to start with one I was a little bit familiar with. So I played Mask on a play by post game, but decided I wanted to run it real time with my crew of players. And if you haven't seen it already, we've got our live play up. I'll throw a link down in the description. We ran it a little bit earlier this week, and we've already got the video out. Had a blast with it, so I wanted to just do a little quick review of the Mask gameplay from my point of view. So huge superhero fan, and this system, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a powered by the apocalypse style system, which kind of assumes your hero is a kind of a young justice style, for lack of a better way to put it. You take the place within the world of Halcyon, or city of Halcyon, within the Mask world, and you get to play a young hero. They kind of recommend it being anywhere between below 20, they say. So, with that, you get to have a young hero who's trying to live up to the demands of being a hero, balancing their lives, and they do a really good job of kind of bringing in just that young perspective and some of the drama that comes along with it, which is definitely kind of one of my roses on that side. So that's kind of what we're going to take a look at. We're just going to go into, if you've ever watched one of my reviews before, we're going to go over the roses, buds, and thorns. I stole this from Not Another D&D podcast, and I love it as a way of kind of looking at what's good, what I may not like, and what's something cool that could be potentially cool in the future. With roses being the good, thorns being the bad, and buds being potential future items that are pretty cool and waiting and kind of lying in wait. So, mass system, I enjoy it. It's powered by the Apocalypse system, which, for those who aren't familiar with that style of play, it's a very fiction first game. And it's nice thing with that is it flows quickly. It allows you to kind of get into the action and have the mechanics support the fiction. So it keeps everything moving, allows players a lot of latitude in describing their actions and kind of what they do and how they react to situations without kind of feeling bogged down by the mechanics of the system, which is always nice. And definitely, a couple of my players even mentioned that after the game. They just felt like they were able to kind of go through and do what they wanted to and kind of figure out what the mechanics were after the effect, which I think is kind of a really cool way to run it, especially for superheroes. One, a medium that's hard to almost translate into game terms, because just how broad the field is. You could have somebody that's superhuman strength, lifting mountains and blowing down buildings, or you could have somebody that's a street level, Batman just kind of fighting thugs, and they could all be in the same fight. And how do you run that with just regular mechanics? With Mask, you do it, and you can kind of just run with kind of the way they set it up. You've got your powers and things you can do, but it kind of all comes down to the core moves of the system, which it kind of allows you to still represent your hero the way that you want them to kind of come across, but still have mechanical rules that make sense and just doesn't really it doesn't get bogged down by the minutia. So that's really one of the really big things I loved with it. It was quick. It was easy to get going. This is all three of my players' first time playing it. This is actually my first time DMing it as well. With just a couple quick reminders of the rules and reminders of kind of what happens on the rolls. People got into it. They were able to RP it out and just have some fun building out their hero and kind of reacting to the world around them, which is definitely kind of what you're aiming for with this style of system. So definitely a big rose there. Another rose I'll say with this too is it's another good one for kind of quickly getting into the action. So with this system, you could build a player or a PC in like probably 15 minutes at the most. You go through, you pick your different traits, so kind of how you view yourself and how the world views you. So they've got superior, freak, danger, and it's like freak is kind of how you unleash your powers. Kind of if you view yourself as like almost an outsider, dangerous with your powers, and dangerous if you're more kind of a brawler. You want to get into the mix, you want to fight, but people may view you as dangerous due to the kind of the way you present yourself on that side. So I kind of liked how they did the traits because it works with kind of how you interact with the world, but also reflects how the world views you too, which is really cool. And I liked how they had another kind of rose too is how they handle kind of the influences a little bit. So people kind of, because one of the big things with the mass system is you can go in and shift people's labels up and down. So like if an adult or somebody that has influence on you says something to you, like maybe you're a young hero and you're trying to prevent a robbery, but you got a little sloppy, and your mentor may be giving you some advice, and they may be shifting your superior down and mundane up. And I like how they can have those options in there and give you the chance as a player to reject it, but also just kind of have reflecting how you're young, you're influenceable, and I thought that was a really cool piece on that side. And that's kind of leading into a rose, kind of our next rose for it. Is I think this system does a really good job with kind of having the mechanics meet the fiction in a realistic way. Uh, because with superheroes, it's hard to, because if you get into the superhero genre, if you build it kind of a standard world with HP and things like that, players may it's hard to build out the PC you want to build without just having a ton of crunch to it. But with this, they kind of went with the core comic book piece where the comics are drama. I know a lot of people are kind of surprised to hear that, but comics are drama at its core. And a lot of the conditions of this system kind of how amp up that drama. Like, well, if you miss, kind of you trying to fight the bad guy and you miss and he socks you in the stomach, you may be angry afterwards. You've messed up, you're embarrassed, or you may be insecure. Your strength is not enough to go after him. And they have these different conditions: angry, secure, afraid, that you can mark in there, and they affect the mechanics, but also encourage you to kind of role play that out and have you kind of add to the fiction with whatever condition you're facing at the moment. So I really enjoyed that portion of it. We didn't get to go too in depth on that with the first time or the one shot we did. That's definitely something I loved with the play by post, and would love to see more of an actual campaign or even an ongoing kind of mix of one shots with the PCs. A couple other things I would say with it before we move forward is it's just very quick. The rolls are easy to understand. It's basically just 2d6 plus your modifiers on that side, so it's nothing too crazy on that. You just roll your 2d6, add your modifiers, and each of the different styles of moves, like directly engage, unleash your powers, defend, have different bonuses and kind of a different success criteria or even failure criteria to meet. And the nice thing with this is powered by the apocalypse. So with the 2d6, even if you do get a hit, like for let's say directly engaged, 7 to 9 is a hit. There's usually going to be a trade-off with it. They'll either have to take a blow in response, or something will usually happen to help the DM or the story master on the side move the game forward and keep it engaged and keep kind of those panels moving on the comic side, and keep your players on the toes. And that's one of the things I like about Powered by the Apocalypse on that side is even if you do get like a partial success, there's something moving on that keeps that drama building and keeps the game moving. So definitely kind of a cool piece on that side. Now we're gonna kind of move in away from the roses into the buds. Some things I'm excited for with this system to try in the future, hopefully. And one of the biggest things I'll say is with this, I feel like a short campaign or campaign would be really good because it goes really. One of the things I liked about it, I actually forgot to mention this in the roses, is it has like another good session zero base for it. I mentioned this with Blades in the Dark, but it has a lot of cool questions about how you guys came together as a team, who on the team do you rely upon, and like you can have answered different questions that are kind of related to your playbook, which the playbooks are the different kind of classes, for like a better way to put it, within the system. And each of those have unique questions that you ask at session zero and kind of go around the room and figure out how the team came together, how different people on the team view each other, and I thought that was really cool. It's built into the system, and it actually has, with the influence mechanics to support that too when you get into your individual relationships on the team. So I thought that was really cool, and that's definitely kind of one of the buds on that side. Is I'd love to explore that more in the campaign, because in the one shot you just really don't get to enough chance for that to shine. But even like a 3 to 4 session campaign, I think that would be a fun one to play with, especially with superheroes. Like the drama is just young superheroes in particular. The drama is just there, and having them react to the world, react to each other, and having the mechanics to support that, I think would be a blast with the mass system. So that's definitely a bud on that side. I'd love to explore that further. So now we're gonna get to the thorns. My first thorn, you'll see I've got my globe behind me. I couldn't find a hardcover for this one, and it won't stand up on its own. Super petty, but I spent like 10 minutes before the video got started, so I had to mention it, trying to stand that up. But overall, good book. I'll give another rose with it. I love some of the art they have with it as too. But I don't think they're selling the hardcover. At least I didn't find one when I was initially shopping it. But real super petty thorn there. My other kind of big thorn on this side, and unfortunately for any of my or fortunately for my Mutants and Masturbots fan, or unfortunately for my Mass fan, uh, I'm still kind of on the Mutants and Masturbots side. I love to have a little bit more. I loved how the mechanics are a little light on this system, and it's powered by the Apocalypse. That's what it's designed to be. But I love with other superhero systems getting to build out your powers and tweak them to make sure you know exactly what the effects are and kind of all the mechanical crunch that goes along with that. Where this game is designed to be light. So this is really just a thorn on my own part. It's something I like to see with superhero systems. But that's not what they're going for with Mass. It's not what it's supposed to be. So take that thorn with like a dose of salt on that side because that's just a real personal preference on my side. The other thorn on this side, this is a little bit more general, but this is kind of a little bit on my own preferences as well. I prefer other D6 styles for that I've seen. Like I enjoyed the Blade style with how they had the D6 mechanics versus how the powered by the or the Mass did it with the powered by the Apocalypse style. Because with Blades, if you remember, and don't go check out our Blades review and mechanics and in-depth look that we did with that with our playlist. But you'll know that when you roll the Blades, you kind of roll however many dice you have in a skill, and then you're shooting for that 5 to 6, or 5 to 6 for success on that, 4 to 6 for success. But with this one, you have a modifier that you apply, so you roll just 2d6 no matter what, and then you add that modifier in, which is cool, but I just preferred the Blade style, and it's just really it's kind of one that's personal preference. I think that has like I like the more kind of chaoticness of Blades. One with kind of multiple dice without the modifier. I think it works best without the modifier, but that's down again another personal preference one. But overall, that's really all the bad I'll have to say about it. The only other things I think could be fleshed out a little bit more, or I wish they'd give. And with this, it's kind of actually one other bad thing I'll say too. This kind of lines up the point I was going to make. There's not much DM dice rolling. There's no DM dice rolling with the system. I love to roll dice as a DM. Like that's why for a lot of other systems, 5e, Pathfinder, I like to be the game master. Is I get to roll the most dice there. With this, you don't really roll dice at all. But that's kind of leads into another piece too. I wish they gave in the Mass Core rulebook just some examples of villains. They have a good section on how to build a villain. But at least I may have missed it too. I didn't go as in depth as I usually do with our games of the months for this one. But I just didn't see any like kind of examples of that what you can kind of throw out and throw into the game. The rules are pretty easy on that side. Your villains stack up with conditions, but I would have loved some examples just to have those handy. But overall, I like this system. It's definitely what I'll be playing in the future. While Mutants and Masterminds may be my go-to superhero RPG, at least for the moment, or so we're going to be reviewing a ton of the other ones too. This one's a great one because you can just pick it up and play, have people build their sheets on the fly, get into the game, and have some fun with kind of the fiction leading the story. And that's my other players. I think I was the lone one that preferred Mutants and Masterminds at the end. All three of my other players, I think, kind of gravitated a little bit more to the Mass side of it. So highly recommend picking it up, especially if you've got a group that loves to kind of lay on the RP and kind of embrace that drama of the superhero kind of existence. This is a great one to try out. But overall, thanks for joining us. This was just a quick review of the Mass system. Since I've already played it, I didn't want to do a full game of the month for it, but it's one I wanted to shout out on the channel. So definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it, and throw in some comments about either your favorite superhero system or things you like about Mask, or even if there's any thorns for yourself that you've come across the Mass system too. I'd love to kind of see what the community's thinking on this one. But overall, it's a blast. Check it out. But big thing to shout out, November is Savage Worlds. It's our game of the month. Come join us Wednesday the 30th at 7 p.m. For the actual play. Get to see us go in-depth on that system and actually have a chance to win a copy of the PDF. And stay tuned. We got a lot more videos coming out for the Savage World side too. But overall, thank you all for joining us. Stay tuned for more superhero goodness too. And until next time.